So, hallo alle. Heute besprechen wir die deutsche Aussprache. So, today we're going to talk about German pronunciation. So, how an American accent or American pronunciation sounds in German versus how a standard German pronunciation would sound. And how you might deal with new sounds that you haven't encountered before, and so on. So, to start, we can think of a language as, or a word rather, as sets of sound in a certain order set to a certain rhythm. And that is true of German as well. So German has a finite number of sounds, and that's like the set of musical notes that we have to put together like the sheet music or the bars that we could say words are in this analogy. So, Deutsche Aussprache. An American accent to a German speaker is generally very apparent. And the first time I went to Germany, I noticed that people would hear my accent and switch to English immediately because people in secondary school in Germany learn English and lots of people want to practice. So if you want to practice your German and avoid that, you want to try to make your accent less identifiable and work with the sounds of German, so within German parameters, so to speak. So to start with, then, I'm going to read the first sentence of an infamous German novella that you may or may not know. It's Die Verwandlung von Franz Kafka, The Metamorphosis, in which the protagonist one day wakes up and finds out that in the night he's turned into some kind of giant vermin, which is usually depicted as a cockroach. So, ich lese das mal vor. Als Gregor Samsa eines Morgens aus unruhigen Träumen erwachte, fand er sich in seinem Bett zu einem ungeheuren Ungeziefer verwandelt. So if I read that same sentence in an American accent with American pronunciation, it would be like this. Als Gregor Samsa eines Morgens aus unruhigen Träumen erwachte, fand er sich in seinem Bett zu einem ungeheuren Ungeziefer verwandelt. So that sounds different, of course, and we're going to talk about why, both with consonants and vowels. But we can start with some general notes about pronunciation. So the first thing I see students struggle with is pronouncing all the letters of a word that includes ending E's, like ich komme. For example, ich komme aus den USA. People will say ich komm. I mean, in this case, like it doesn't matter so much because in like colloquial speech, people often drop the endings of verbs. But in general, in German, if you see an E at the end of the word, you should pronounce it. And then we have some exceptions like loan words from French. So French is notorious for having words that aren't spoken. So like restaurants in German is das Restaurant, and that is a loan word from French. Another difference from French and some other languages you might have learned is that German is spoken in what one might call a staccato style. So that means every word is articulated. That doesn't mean that people don't speak quickly or occasionally slur their speech. But that's just to say it's not like French where you have words blending into one another. I mean, you could say English is kind of a staccato language as well. So we have that in common. I would say the difference is that German is just a little bit more staccato. It's a bit härter, harder, so to speak. So we can go through the alphabet real quick. Our sounds with A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. And when we say these letters, we're going to hold our mouths in a way that's a little bit more tense and like spoken with a little bit more forceful airflow than the English or American English alphabet. So, like, you've probably imitated accents in the past, and you'll notice when you're imitating accents that you kind of hold your mouth in a different way. Like, your mouth muscles feel different, and this applies to German as well. Like, if you've ever, uh, like, imitated Game of Thrones characters, Winter is Coming, or said, like, in Soviet Russia, TV watch you, like that kind of thing. You could try the same with German. So, in Germany, we drive very good cars, and we have a great sense of humor, although the other countries don't always think this. So what is different about saying those words with this fake German accent than with an American accent? Well, we shall see. So we'll start with some consonant sounds. So we'll start with the CH sounds. These trip people up. So in English, this would be a ch sound. And in German, it's not. So after usually A, O, or U, you have the guttural CH, which is a bit like clearing your throat. So coming from the back of your mouth. And we have words like Dach, machen, Schach, and Buch. Sometimes the CH is more pronounced than in others. Like if you see it in the middle of a word like machen, you barely hear it. But if it's at the end of a short word like this, then it's more forwards with Dach, Schach, chess. Then after other vowels, you have this soft CH. So if you say the word hue or human, we have this sound in English. It's just not written. So if you extend that H, so human, hue, you'll feel an airflow between your tongue and the roof of your mouth, and that is the same airflow that we're going to use for this soft German CH. In ich, mich, Gesicht, wirklich, und so weiter und so fort. B's, if you see these at the end of a word, there's a difference here in that you're going to pronounce them more like the English P. So we have deep, like thief, sieb, like sieve or colander. If you see a D at the end of a word, you want to pronounce it like a T. So das Geld, money, Spad, bath or bathroom. G's. So in English we have two different G's. We have the hard G sound, which we will use in German, like good, gut. Haben wir im Deutschen auch. We would have the kind of soft J sounding G in English as well, like generic, for example. The G doesn't do that in German, except in loan words, which are always an exception. So J, J, that is going to be pronounced like RY. So Joghurt, ja, except again in loan words. And the example I have here is joggen. But in den allermeisten Fällen, or in the most cases, the majority of cases, it's going to be like a Y. So L, this is going to be the dark L, which means it's the one where you keep your tongue further back. So we have two L's in English. One where the tongue touches the tips of your front teeth, and the other where it's kind of like right behind your front teeth. We're going to use the one in German where it's behind the front teeth. So Lampe, rollen, und so weiter. The R, this trips people up as well. So in American English, we have this unique R that's pretty uncommon internationally, that's spoken like deep in the throat. In German, we don't do that. For the end of words, we'll use something similar to British R that's not spoken, like we would say water. They would say water. So with ER, it's like Wasser. And in the middle of words or at the front of a word, it's going to be rolled. So standard German oder Hochdeutsch rolls the R in the back of the mouth. So if you gargle with water, it's that same muscle motion, and it takes getting used to if you're a native English speaker, or at least it did for me. But it's something you can learn. So, was sind da Wörter mit R drin? Keine Ahnung. I'm trying to think of words with R in them. Du rollen, rasen, reifen und so weiter. You can roll the R at the front of your mouth as well, like the Spanish R, like I do the back one better. And that is more common in southern Germany, like in Bayern, or Austria and Österreich. In Norddeutschland ist das immer hinten im Kehlkopf gerollt. S, unless it's at the end of a word, like in a plural, we're going to pronounce it like the English Sie or Z. So sagen, for example, to say, ach. If we read this word as an English speaker, we might think it's sagen, aber nee, es ist sagen, so z, like a buzz sound, sagen. SP and ST, when together, will make an SCH sound first, so sp, st. We'll have words like Spitze, der Staat, the state, die Stadt, the city. V is pronounced usually like F, and this is another common troublesome one. You'll see von in names, so that's pronounced like von. And a lot of people just say von, aber von. And I realize here I should probably mention T as well. So when we see T in the middle of a word in American English, we tend to pronounce it as a D, so like water. I gave the example of British English, water. We say it kind of like water. In German, you're going to always pronounce the T as a T and not as a D. So nicht Vater, sondern Vater, Vater, keine Ahnung. Like father, nicht Vater, sondern Vater. So W, or V, pronounced like RV. This one you probably know already because it's a huge stereotype about German accents. Y, I guess this is technically a vowel. I'm not sure what the actual linguists would consider it, but if you see a Y in the middle of a word, you're going to pronounce it like a short U sound. So like Hyperintensität. So nicht hyper, sondern hyper. Finally, we have Z. And this is going to be pronounced like TZ. We make the buzzing sound Z like the German S, but we're always going to have that TZ sound. So most infamously, we have Nazi. That's why we don't pronounce it Nazi, sondern Nazi. So other brief notes. The English TH, so does not exist in German. If you see T and H together in a German word, you're going to pronounce it just as a T. English SH, like that sound, sh, is written as SCH. So if you see SH in a word, it's going to be just like kind of an S sound. People learning German from an English-speaking perspective will often drop a K at the beginning of a word, and in German that's pronounced so knacken zum Beispiel. Not nacken, sondern knacken. This one's hard for me because the K is less articulated than I think it would be in English if we were fully pronouncing it, but it is there. Same with P and F. So we could do Pfandflasche. So that's a bottle with a deposit on it, Pfand, Pfand. Nicht nur Pfand, sondern Pfand. You want your lips to sort of press together there. IG at the end of a word has more of that soft CH sound for standard German speakers, although in dialect or in different regions this is not always the case. Sometimes you'll say ich, aber der König wäre ein Beispiel, that would be an example. Honig, honey. NG. So we have two different NG sounds in English. One would be like finger, where we have that hard g, finger. And then the other one would be like singer or ring, where we kind of swallow that G sound. It's always going to be the former in German. So like the German word for finger is spelled the same, but it's pronounced nicht der Finger, sondern der Finger. QU. This is pronounced like KV in English. So Qualität. Finally, I mentioned this already, if you have an ER at the end of a word, it's dropped to an A sound, as in British English. Water, Wasser. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about vowels a little bit. And to do this, I have examples of long and short vowels from a very helpful book that I would recommend. So this is called Modern German Pronunciation, an Introduction for Speakers of English by Christopher Hall. And what I find helpful about this book is that it lists problems that both British and American English speakers tend to have with the sounds of German. So we can go over these sounds and how they sound in German and the difference between how they sound in English. So we'll start with the long and short I sound. So we would have this in Miete, rent, like where we have this IE in general, that's an E. And the short one, Mitte, Mitte, which is really similar to what we have in English. So like, what would be examples of these in English? I, im Deutschen, auf Englisch, I. So the I is pretty similar and the E is different. It's pronounced, I guess, more tensely in German, and for me it's just helpful to like listen to the language a lot and listen to it like stretched out or broken down by sound, like to hear those minute differences. So we have nicht Miete, sondern Miete. I'd say I like close my throat a little bit more and I raise my tongue a little bit in the back versus the English E. So Miete, I, Mitte, I. So not really riddle in English, Miete, Mitte. Now we have the E sound. So we have a long one, like an E and an E. So stehlen, to steal, and short stellen, like to place something or to put something somewhere. Examples of this in English, we could have like play, A, and so kettle. The is pretty much the same. The A, again, is pronounced more tensely and higher up in German. So not A, sondern E. A, E. So yeah, the tongue comes up a little bit in the back. Now we have the long and short A sounds. So lahm und lamm. So like lame or paralyzed, und lamm, lamb. A would be like an A in American English. They don't have the A sound in German, so A, just A. Not too difficult. The A, I think it's really the same thing, where you just kind of have to raise your tongue a bit and pronounce it a bit more tensely with the throat a bit more closed. So nicht lahm, sondern lahm. So A in American English. Lahm. Now we have the long and short U sound. So U and O. So we have muss and muss. U. This one, the lips are more forward and rounded than in English, so we would have oo, like food. Ooh, 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 ooh. Push your lips forward a bit more, and I think it just comes from deeper. Muss, should, maybe. Ooh, oh. Now we have O and O. So offen, offen. O, oh. So again, it's really just like a matter of pronouncing it more deeply, pushing more air out of your throat, pursing your lips more, so offen, 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 offen. Your lips don't get pursed or pushed forwards as much in the short versions of these, so offen, offen. Then we have the U sound, which we don't have in English. So fühlen, füllen, fühlen, füllen. This short U is kind of similar to the I sound. That's the closest I can think of. So fühlen, füllen. Now we have the Ö. So höhle, hölle. Ö, Ö. Ö, Ö. You can see kind of the different motions my lips are making when I pronounce these words. Then we have the E. This is the A umlaut, like but you kind of drop your jaw more. Kind of like when you go to the doctor and they have the tongue depressors, like bären. Then we have bitte. So these are diphthongs. So that's when you have two letters together that make a specific sound. That is the equivalent of a vowel sound. So this sound that we have in heiß, you would see with EI and with AI in German. In English, if we have an EI, we might have an A sound like Haze. Like in the word said, we might have an with AI, but they always make this I sound in German. So not I, but I. So this one I would say is higher up in the throat, maybe a little bit, and of course tenser. So nicht I, sondern I, heiß. Then we have AU sounds, Haus. And again, it's a little bit different. So in English, ow, like ow, that hurts. Oh, in German, ow, oh, Haus, oh. And if you see this AU, it's never going to make the ah sound that it sometimes does in English. Like some people, when starting out, will pronounce this Haus, aber nee, das ist immer Haus. Dann haben wir endlich dieses Oi, kind of like Oi in English, like Oi, you there. Oi, so EU always makes this sound. OI makes this sound as well. So people will see this and think they can pronounce it new, aber das ist neu. Wenn ihr EU so zusammen seht, dann sprecht ihr das als Oi aus. So, anything else worth mentioning there? We can say German vowels tend to be more tense. So if you look at this book, this will give you specific problems. Like let's look at an example here. So this is for the I sound. So Spiel, Lies, Miete, politisch. So some English speakers have an I sound, which is similar. However, it tends to be more open and more centralized than in German. So you're going to close your mouth more and you're going to like push it back. So if you want a copy of this PDF, just comment or send me a message and I'll send this to you if you're in the class, which actually I assume you are if you're watching this video, then it's in the class Google Drive. Then I had, before I close, one more tip. And that was that to get a sense of which syllables you're going to stress and de-stress, just listening and reading is the most helpful strategy in my experience. And I find that in particular this helps with poetry. So if you took high school English, which I presume you did, you're probably familiar with metered poetry. So you have like an unstressed, stressed, or stressed, unstressed syllable. Like we could say, when in that April his showers, ... I can't remember the general prologue to the Canterbury Tales off the top of my head. But I have a poem here that I found on lyrikmon.de. which is said to be the most well-known and most famous poem in the German language. Das ist von Matthias Claudius und das heißt Abendlied, so evening song. And we'll see it's going to be unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. So if we read and practice our new letter by letter pronunciation in our diphthongs, we can get an idea not only of the sounds themselves, but of the rhythm in which they're typically spoken. So I'll just read this stanza and we can close with that. So, der Mond ist aufgegangen, die goldenen Sternlein prangen, am Himmel hell und klar, der Wald steht schwarz und schweiget, und aus den Wiesen steiget der weiße Nebel wunderbar. So, das wär's, ihr Lieben. Also mache ich jetzt Schluss. Und ihr seht jetzt, wie ich das drehe. Ich muss mich erstmal noch dran gewöhnen. I have to get used to this online teaching thing. I'm definitely not used to it yet. I'm having this inception moment. But yes, gute Nacht. Tschüss.